Hello, ladies. Welcome to my channel. I shouldn't say ladies. This really is a gender non-specific channel. But statistically, most of my viewers are women, so we're just gonna leave it at that. Um, Today's video could be potentially triggering for some of you. Um, but I would encourage you to stay open and stick around anyways, because if you can really hear this information from a detached place and look at it from the perspective of, say you're a business owner and the business isn't working, there's money leaking out, profits are not where they need to be, and you identify a problem that you can fix and therefore get the business back on track and make it thrive and achieve your desired outcome. Wouldn't that be exciting, right? Um, so I hope that you can see the information presented here in that same light, because we are all the CEO of our lives and the business of our lives, right? So before I get into it, my name is Kana. I am a former law enforcement officer. I spent 20 years as a cop. I now do divorce and family mediation, coaching, consulting, but I do it all through the lens of Kabbalah. I am a manifestation coach, spiritual teacher, energy worker, healer. But again, I come at it through the framework of divorce and family court and relationships, because it's just something near and dear to my heart. And I could go on about that for a long time. So if you like my style of coaching, if you've seen some of my other videos and you want to go deeper, you can head on over to my website. There are several ways to work with me. There's an application for one-on-one coaching and several video courses, or you can just stay here and enjoy the free content. So without further ado, um, today's video is really about this idea of a victim mentality. And many women who are coming out of these, women and men, but again, I just use the term women because, again, statistically, it's like 80%, something like that. Women who are coming out of these narcissistic, abusive relationships, uh, and very often there is not physical abuse present, right? And most of us were raised seeing abusive relationships through that framework, right? Um, However, so coercive control is the pattern. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about the problem. There are plenty of videos out there about narcissists and going into great depth about how terrible they are. And those can be really helpful in the beginning, but we don't want to unpack and stay there. And that is really the topic of today's video. Um, it's great to identify the problem, to diagnose it. But then we want to move on to the next step, which is figuring out how the problem started, where it came from, and then going to the source, going to the seed level. So there are many YouTube channels that talk about the court process. And I have a course about going pro se on my website as well. And those are great. And for sure, we can't just approach things from an energetic, meditative, spiritual manifestation, visualization level. Yes, that is part of it. That is 99% of it. But it's like you can fantasize about winning a lottery ticket all day, but if you don't actually go out and buy the ticket, take the physical 1% action, nothing's going to happen. So we have to do both. And all the actions we take, the outcome will follow the consciousness with which we took them. So if you think about an atom is, in fact, only 1% physical matter and 99% empty space. But what fills that empty space? That empty space is energy. It's consciousness. It's not really empty. This is why, and this happens, by the way, in real life. This is not just on TV. Police officers will, or well, detectives, when they can't find a missing person, they will go to a psychic with an object that belonged to the person, because the object has their energetic frequency, their signature attached to it. Okay. And by holding it, somebody who is very attuned to that energetic level of reality is able to, hopefully, depending on their skill level and their ability, to tune in and give the law enforcement agency some kind of direction in which to go. And we see this in many different, I recently saw that the ruby red slippers that Dorothy wore in the Wizard of Oz movie, or Judy Garland, I guess I should say, were auctioned off for like, I don't know, some crazy amount of money, like $265 million or something. I don't think it was that high, but why is a physical object worth that much? Why not just duplicate those shoes and sell them for 20 bucks? Because it's the energy attached to them. So all of our actions in this world, in this 1% physical reality world, they are 1% of the um, of the puzzle. The 99% is energy. So that is where my classes are focused on, right? I mean, it's both. It's both. But um, it's like a person can enter into a relationship with the right consciousness, which, by the way, is to see the relationship as a workshop for personal growth. And what can they give and how can they grow versus what can they get, right? And two people, same action, entering into a relationship. One is sheer bliss, the other is a total nightmare. Why? Because of the consciousness of the individual. And by the way, if you want to meet your soulmate, the only way to do it is from this perspective of understanding that a relationship, an intimate romantic relationship, is about two people learning to become like God through the relationship itself. That's the medium, like ridiculous, like illogical sharing. All right. Now, that is a statement that requires a lot of unpacking, and I will for sure make another video about that. Not to say you can't have a perfectly nice relationship without that consciousness, but if you really want to go for the soulmate level, that is the only way. All right, fine. So, this idea of being a victim, and I actually want to thank this woman who drove me so crazy over the past week. I mean, really triggered me, and I couldn't figure out why. And thank God at like 3 a.m. today, I woke up and had this epiphany and realized why I found it to be so bothersome. But it highlighted for me where so many people go wrong in family court, in relationships, in life, because sometimes we need to learn the right way by looking at the wrong way. By contrast, by seeing how far the pendulum went in one direction, we can understand what things need to look like in the other direction. And this is a really clear, extreme example of what not to do. But I think that by learning about it, naturally, almost intuitively, we'll we'll find, we'll find ourselves going in the other way. Okay, so this woman was living what I think most people would consider to be their worst nightmare. She was in an abusive relationship. She got out. Her ex got full custody of the kids. She's paying child support. And if you meet her at first blush, at a very surface level, it doesn't even seem possible that this could be happening, right? She's like put together. She doesn't have any like drug addictions, doesn't seem like she would have any history of physical abuse. Obviously, I don't know. But she's educated, employed, a member of an upstanding religious community, and it's scary, right? Like, how could this happen, right? It seems like something out of the Twilight Zone. But as I got to know her, I realized that she shared that she had been a victim or a client, I'm sorry, a client of a victim uh, abuse counseling center for like, I don't know, like 15 years or something like that. And she'd only been divorced for a couple years. So she had been, yeah, probably throughout the whole marriage, had been going to abuse counseling. And what I noticed about her was that she was always looking for somebody else to solve her problems. She had this inner emptiness that rather than look at that and try to address it herself, she had looked to a marriage to fulfill her. She had looked to motherhood to fulfill her. She had looked to counselors to fix her. And I'm not suggesting we don't do these things, but we can't come at anything from a place of lack or emptiness, because if that is our consciousness, then again, the fruit follows the seed. So, and our consciousness is the seed. So even like a business that started from a place of lack, like I'm going to show the world that, I'm not, I don't know, that I'm going to prove my worth to my father or something like that. Even if the business appears to be successful and profitable, because it was started from a place of darkness and emptiness, it can't bring joy. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. So she was looking to, and then she looked to the courts to save her and the rabbis to save her. And because happiness and fulfillment is an inside job, she found no success, right? So then she started complaining about everything, complaining about her ex, complaining about her kids, complaining about her own attorney, complaining about the courts, complaining about the judge, complaining about the rabbi. I need to expose the system. It's a broken system. I can't get support. I can't get help. Everybody's supporting my ex. And and she's right, by the way, everybody was supporting her ex, but her energy was so noxious and off-putting that I also, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like calling the court and saying, don't ever, ever let this woman be around children because she's just a blamer and a complainer that you never want to teach anybody that that is the way to live, to always point the finger. And just remember, when we point the finger, three fingers are pointing back at us. Um, that is a healthy way to live. And I would say within a short period of time of meeting her, she was telling me, my lawyer hates me, the GAL hates me, the judge hates me. Um, and I started to hate her too. And I remember if you've ever listened to Abraham Hicks videos or lectures, so Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, he's like a collective consciousness that comes through her. So her husband was a guy named Jerry Hicks, and he spoke about a woman he once met, I don't know, in some capacity, and she was escaping an abusive relationship. And Jerry said, he's like, I'm not an abuser. Gosh, my cup is like, oh, that's funny. But I have never wanted to abuse anyone so bad in my life as this woman. She was like pulling it out of me. And I could not get her out of my car into the train station fast enough because that's not who I am. I am not an abuser. But her energy was like sending out the signal, abuse me, abuse me, abuse me. And of course, we have to know who we are, right? Because, like the saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And thank God he had that awareness, right? But most people are not that disciplined. And so they will respond to the commands that we are constantly giving to the universe. And so when a person is always complaining, they're actually commanding the universe to give them more of what they are speaking about. And even as I'm making this video, I'm like, I hope that I'm not commanding the universe to like bring me more women like this particular woman who was never my client. That was another thing about her was she wanted everything for free. She wasn't willing to make any investment in herself energetically, um, financially. She wanted a pro bono attorney. And I'm not saying that per se there's anything wrong with wanting a pro bono attorney, but we have to understand that there are laws, there are energetic laws, just like there are physical laws like gravity and thermonuclear dynamics. I don't know, I'm not a scientist. If you put an apple on the table, it's going to ripen and rot. It's not going to, well, I guess it wouldn't ripen. I don't know. But it's going to eventually decompose. It's not going to remain forever fresh. Um, Whatever, like ice will melt or water will freeze depending on the temperature. Like there are natural laws and there is a energetic spiritual law that we subconsciously devalue that which we receive for free. So all these YouTube videos are great. And believe me, I get my content in Spotify, podcasts, YouTube videos, and I do pay, I pay for those services. I have my premium YouTube account and my paid Spotify account. Um, but I do not take in and absorb and hold the information the same way I do with my business coach, who I pay a lot of money. And it's not that she tells me anything so earth-shattering, anything that I couldn't hear on, Instagram, but because there is an exchange of energy, because I'm giving over my energy, I'm creating a space for that wisdom to come in. Okay. So even like maybe a person hears a YouTube video and they're not paying per se the speaker, but sitting down, taking notes, really taking in the energy, it's very different from just listening to it while you're driving or putting on your makeup or whatever. So this woman, she was not willing to make any investment in herself. She was looking for a savior, and that was her attitude towards everything, towards her marriage, towards her children. Her children were going to make her feel needed and necessary and fulfilled. Towards God, please, God, save me. Again, I'm not saying not to pray, but prayer is not about asking God to give you something different than what you have. That's looking to change God. Prayer is about changing ourselves into the appropriate vessel to receive that which we want. So instead of praying for, I don't know, money, pray for the ability to, pray for the right job, pray for the right business idea, pray for the right container, the right vessel. And all right, I did not want to make this about prayer, but every aspect of her life, she is looking for somebody to do things for her. And I don't know why. Well, I would say, no, I think I just realized it. She doesn't see her own light. Okay, we all have the light of God within us. We are all a spark of the Creator. But if we don't see it, nobody else will. People see you the way you see yourself. Okay. Bob Ross, remember that painter, Bob Ross? I saw this little snippet, this reel of one of his videos the other day. And he's like, painting his little trees. And he's like, you got to believe in yourself because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. And that's so true. Like he was tuned in, he knew the truth. And if we don't believe in ourselves, then, all right, listen, let me back up. So at a certain point, she's going on and on and on and on about how broken the system is. And I just said, like, kind of randomly, have you ever considered contacting an investigative reporter? And then it turns into, well, what do you think about this? And, do you want to like help work on this with me? And who do you know? Do you know any resources? And it's like this like endless series of voice notes and WhatsApp. And I'm like, no, you do it. You do it. You can do this. And even that was probably a bad suggestion because still she's looking for somebody to do the work, expose the system, expose, change the system, systemic change. And I'm not saying that sometimes systems don't need to be changed, right? Like the whole civil rights movement and women getting the vote and all these things. Yes, systems do need to be changed, but it has to start within. And that is one reason I do like pro se representation because it empowers people and forces them to take risks. And how do we develop self-confidence? By doing, by doing, by doing, by doing. And we take one step and we're like, oh my gosh, I did that and I didn't die. Wow, what else could I do? It's through action. It's not just sitting there and saying, okay, I'm self-confident. I mean, that might be part of it, but it's not eliminating fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And again, there are some things we shouldn't do if we're fearful. Um, that's a different story. But it's like I don't know, just taking that first step and really being the hero of your story versus the victim. And so I I realized that this particular woman, like, she's probably one of these women that would say, and I've heard this ad nauseum, I just wanted to be loved. Well, and I was so giving. I gave everything. I kept the house. I took care of the kids. I did everything for him. Right. But if you do with the expectation of receiving, that's giving for the sake of receiving, and that's actually taking. All right. So, what makes a person attractive, like energetically, shiny, radiant, magnetic? What do people love? People love those who shine, who are givers, who are always adding value, not looking to receive. Like, why don't we like salespeople? Because they're telling you this is a product that benefits you, but what they really want is your money, right? Now, not not always. I mean, some salespeople really truly believe that what they're giving you is going to benefit you, but anyway, again, that's a whole different conversation. A person who, when somebody feels exhausted by giving, right? When they're like totally drained, it's because their giving wasn't really giving. They were giving, hoping to get something in return, right? And this isn't about blaming or shaming, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be loved. I mean, there's a natural healthy need, but that's an inside job, knowing that you're loved. And this is like part of what's so important for us as parents is to teach our children that they are naturally loved and deserving and worthy and loved by source intelligence, infinite intelligence, source energy, whatever, God, Hashem, the creator, whatever name you want to put on it, and that they don't need that from anybody. Be needed, don't be needy. You have something to give. And so I was thinking about this in terms of the court and why this woman, I don't know her ex at all, but why has she lost custody of her kids? And she is looking to take. And when courts look to who is the better parent, what is in the best interest of the child, they are looking at the person who is genuinely focused on the kid. And many parents go to court and it becomes about, just bickering between who's the better parent and pointing fingers. And the courts are really looking at who genuinely seems focused on the children. And part of that is allowing the other child to have a healthy relationship with their other parent because you cannot allow a child to believe that their other parent is somehow defective or toxic or broken because a child cannot love him or herself if they think they come from bad stock, so to speak. And people don't realize that because they become so selfish. And selfish energy is very off-putting, all right? Um, why are narcissists so successful often? Because they believe in themselves, they have confidence, they shine, and they do a service. They often are very good at what they do. Maybe they're a good surgeon or engineer or um, business. I mean, they are providing value, all right? And that will always be more magnetic than somebody who is a victim and is powerless or feels powerless. And if you feel powerless, you are powerless because that's how free you are. And so this particular woman, she said she was looking to develop healthy friendships, but that wasn't true. She was looking to instrumentalize people to use them to get her own needs met. She was a total user with this thin veneer, like a pile of dog poop with a layer of frosting on top of, cheerfulness and spirituality and, oh, the creator and our soul and this and that. But underneath it was total like me, 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 me. I am so attached and needy and cannot be happy until I get my needs met, which even if she did, she would still find something to complain about because that was her baseline. And I actually made notes about it at 3 in the morning when I woke up. And she was like in total survival mode. Like this phrase she kept saying was, I feel like my existence, my very existence is being threatened. It's no, it's not. It feels that way because that's the lie in our head that tells us we're going to die if people don't like us. Um, and when a person is in survival mode, it's then they are every man for himself and dog eat dog, and that's just not a healthy, effective way to live. Um, so, and by the way, it's funny. One piece that so many manifestation coaches miss, and believe me, I have seen my fair share of the manifestation world can be so incredibly toxic because it's missing this key element. And this is the missing piece. If you have made it this far into the video, pat yourself on the back because you are going to get a secret that so many people miss is what, okay. is I was going through some notebooks yesterday and I found a notebook that had a little post-it on it that I had written on the post-it. When you get busy taking care of others, God gets busy taking care of you. Now, think about this. When you're taking care of others, who are you teaming up with? You are teaming up with the creator, all right? Source energy, the source of everything good, of blessings, fulfillment, financial security, peace, wisdom, love, abundance, fun, joy, all the things people want, right? When people say they want something, excuse me, let's say they want, a dress or a pair of shoes or a luxury vacation. What they really want is the feelings attached to the thing. Okay. And they believe that that thing will bring them the feeling. So a lot of manifestation is about, well, achieve the feeling first. And that is true. And that's, again, a topic for another video. But those feelings are non-physical. What we really want is the feeling. So and this is why people like drugs, right? I mean, people do heroin and they don't have to get the yacht or the vacation or the boyfriend or whatever because the heroin just brings them to that place. Now, of course, there's the crash, right? Because it doesn't last. And not saying the physical things do either, but what we really want is the feeling, okay? So, just hear me out here. So if God is non-physical, and really God is physical because even physical matter is just energy in its slowest and densest form, but it's still the same stuff, okay? It's still energy. Everything is energy. So if God is the everything good, right? And the source of all goodness. And one thing God does is he takes care of his creation. I hate to personify it and put even a gender on it. Again, that's a topic for a whole nother video from the Kabbalistic perspective. What is God and what is the feminine aspect of God? And I have a video about this on my website. Anyways, so when we take care of others and we really do it without attachment, without need, because God is whole, God is perfect, God doesn't need anything, right? Now we're teaming up with Source. And when you are teamed up with somebody, you now have access to their resources, okay? If you have a partner in business who has a lot of money and you're partners, now you're able to tap into that flow. Or if they have great ideas and that's your partner, now you're tapped into the flow of great ideas. So when we tithe, give charity, um, visit the sick, all these acts of giving and taking care of others. Now, again, not to overgive or give bread of shame, give people things that they haven't earned, that they can't appreciate because they don't have the vessel for it, because they haven't done the work, a whole nother video. But when we are genuinely feeling what other people need and we're teamed up with this source energy, now it's naturally flowing into our lives, okay? And because like attracts like, when we are acting like the light, acting like the creator, being proactive, not reactive, being the cause, not the effect, that makes us more radiant and shiny to others. Because what do people love? People love the light, all right? And that's why we have a saying in real estate, that's my other day job, by the way, that buyers make their decisions emotionally and justify them logically. But this is true in all of life. People make their decisions emotionally and then go back and justify it logically. All right. You know, they walk into the house, they know within 30 seconds if they're going to make an offer or not. But nobody wants to trust their intuition. So they're like, oh, well, they go back, it's the right location. I like the kitchen. It's it has three-car garage, whatever. And those things might be true, but the truth is they felt it when they walked through the door. So judges, even though judges do look at the facts, the truth is, and I'm telling you this from experience, I was a cop, all right? And I was the mediator, the judge at the street level, people who didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to go to court, to appear before an arbitrator, to appear before Judge Judy. And by the way, why is it that sometimes you look at a court case and you're like, oh my gosh, why is the judge choosing in that person's favor? The facts don't even seem to support that. It's because they have better energy. So we want to go at everything from the energetic level. I can tell you on a personal level, in my own case in court, I have done some things that were kind of jerky, but that might appear jerky, right? If you don't know the context. But because I was coming at it truly from the right place, the outcome was shaped in the right direction. I don't know how else to explain it. Things that I did that if another person had done and done the same thing selfishly, it would have gone really far south. But I did it from the right place. Okay, this probably is not making any sense, or potentially is not making any sense, but the key takeaway here is this person who has had no success and will continue to have no success as long as they remain in this state of looking for a savior and not knowing that they themselves have it within them to be the hero of their own story. The antidote to that is to really feel what the person in front of you needs. How can you serve this plant? How can you serve this animal? How can you serve this person? And what this woman was doing was she was trying to be giving, but she was not taking the time to try to really feel what that person in front of her needed. She was dumping all this toxicity into my inbox, which I told her to stop. And then she really took offense to it. But I don't think she ever had the wherewithal to stop and ask herself, wow, does this person really want to see this video? Is this going to be good for them? Is this going to be triggering for them? She was only thinking about herself. I need to give, I need to give, I need to give. A lot of people hide behind giving, by the way. And she it's just like a black hole, and that her energy is so off-putting that nobody wants to give her what she wants because it's like, oh my gosh, get away from me, right? It's just this really toxic sort of vibe. So the answer is to be the opposite, to really imagine if you were God and you had this person in front of you, what do they need? Do they need mercy? Do they need compassion? Do they need tolerance? Do they need acceptance? Do they need understanding? Do they need tough love? Do they need a kick in the pants? Do they need a scolding, right? When I was a cop, there was another officer who, I don't know how many of you can hear this. And this is one of these comments that, thank God I'm not a politician, because this could totally be taken out of context. He would say, violence is the only language that some people understand. And there were certain individuals that you could not reason with them. You could not talk to them. But if you would hit them upside the head, they would get that. And so when we are trying to help people, we need to speak their language. And we need to always be shining, always be giving, always be caring. And that caring can look very different, right? We set boundaries for our kids because we love them. And it's like pet obesity is a big problem in the US. There's like many, many fat dogs out there and cats. Why? Because the pet owner is always giving them treats. Is that really what's best for the pet? Or does the pet owner need to feel good about themselves by giving, endless treats to their animal and thereby creating all these problems? And so we really have to think about our giving. We have to be a giver, always be giving, always be adding value, but also, are we giving what people need, right? Or are we just spamming them because, oh, I got to be a giver, I got to be a giver, I got to share this and share that and share this and share that. No, stop. Stop, 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 stop. Don't overwhelm people. Really try to dial in to what's going to help them. And again, that could be, it's like with alcoholics. The best thing you can do is walk away from them. There's a beautiful quote about in a relationship, you have to be willing to give everything for the other person, including walking away, right? This is the detachment piece. You really love somebody, what is going to be the best thing for them? Okay. So, in summary, don't be like this woman, all right? Do not be always attached to your agenda, looking to get your own needs met, looking for something external to fulfill you, whether it's a cookie or a relationship or a outcome in a case or whatever it is. Not to say we shouldn't have those things, but it's like having a drink, right? You can have a toast, a little cheer, a l'chaim, cheers, whatever, at a happy event. I'll drink to that. But if you're drinking out of a place of misery and sadness to like self-medicate, that is not okay. I mean, whatever. It's not going to have a good outcome, put it that way. And if there's some kind of emptiness inside that you're looking for something, you think you'll be okay once that's fulfilled, that's the place to start. Because otherwise, everything else, even if you're able to take something from outside, you'll hold it for 1 second and then it'll be gone, right? It'll make you feel good for a second and then it'll go away. The fulfillment will go away because that hole inside, that's an inside job. Okay. I did not mean to talk this long. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you found that any of this resonated. All right, guys, I love you and I will see you in the next one. Bye.